Hey everybody, Dean Sweetman here, along with Frank Barry. Mate, how you doing?
Doing awesome. It's another good day at Tithely.
It's another fantastic day at Tithely. We're gonna, man, I'm so excited about this show because we're gonna be talking about something that is very near and dear to my heart, and that is
Yes.
church planting and raising
Yeah,
money for church plants.
that's going to be epic.
So we have got a fantastic guest with us today. Her name is Michelle Parker from a group called Stadia Church Planting.
Yep.
Michelle, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here.
Great to have you.
Yes.
This is cool. You met with Frank a little bit. I know as a company we help you guys in on the whole digital giving side of things. But it's finally great to meet you. I've heard so much about you.
I hope it's been good.
It's all been good.
All
It's
good. All good.
Maybe just a little for the listeners, Michelle. Maybe a little background, what you do at Stadia, a little bit about Stadia. Give us the what's what.
Sure. So Stadia is a church planting organization, and we partner with individuals and organizations all over the world to start more and more churches. Planting churches is still the number one way to reach people who don't know God yet. And
Absolutely.
The vast majority of people, they come to faith as children. So it's kind of this knowledge that propels Stadia and our partners to just really start planting more and better churches that intentionally care for children. I get the privilege of serving on the Stadia team. I've been a part of it for over 5 years. In my first role as project manager, I helped church planters all over the United States get started. And in my new role, I serve as the director of bookkeeping for Stadia. And it's a little bit different than project management. But
Those are like two different universes, not just.
They really are, yeah. But like both very, very important. I mean, somebody to walk alongside a church sources. And so, we recognize if the finances aren't good and the systems aren't good, then the health and multiplication of a church is just very limited.
Interesting. So, my experience, and I'm interested to see if it's yours. You have a couple types of church planters. Ones who are good at and like to and see the value in raising funds, and you have others who are timid, not know they have to obviously, but
Right.
just don't lean into it. So, give us some of your experience on just that whole dynamic of and how you guys talk about fundraising, how you talk to the planters and the teams about it. How do you guys approach that?
Yeah, I mean, we really use kind of this parent analogy. So for those of us who are parents, we remember the many visits that led up to the 9 months before that child was born.
Mm-hmm.
Every month, the doctor would check like these key vitals, right, and make sure that everything was healthy and was on track for that new little life. So baby church really is no different. There are these key vitals that must be measured. They have to be monitored along the way. And fundraising just happens to be one of the fundamental metrics for launching strong. Takes a lot of money to start a healthy church.
Right.
And planters can have a tendency to think that, fundraising can kind of happen as they go. And it certainly can, but the farther along a church planter gets into the process of planting a church, the more they realize they don't have as much time on their hands. So again, kind of that analogy is that a low birth weight baby, they have this tendency, right, for complications and delayed growth.
Right.
A church plant's the same way. So with limited resources at the beginning, they too could have complications, stress when they're born, and when they launch out. So we just really recommend that church planters really start working on the fundraising thing at the get-go. Like do as much as you possibly can, because I promise you there's just going to be more and more work as you go along.
Yeah. How do you guys, for church plant, couples, I'm assuming it's oftentimes couples that come into how do you help them? They have no sense of fundraising. They don't come from that. Maybe they've never done it or seen it. How do you help them get started? Like what kind of education does Stadia put folks through and training related to fundraising and planting a new church?
Well, we have lots of training. We actually have a fundraising intensive. It's one of the first things that our church planters go through. And in that, one of my great friends and colleagues, Craig Whitney, leads that. One of the things I love about the fundraising intensive is it isn't just a bunch of strategies, though it is. There are strategies, right. But he also speaks to like the mindset of a church planter. It really helps them kind of dial in and wrestle with some things. So you really have to deal with the things that limit you as it relates to finance, and you have to figure out what are those things that kind of propel you to be successful. Many church planners, they never deal with their fear of making the ask. They never wrestle with their own values on finance or right. faith or fundraising, and how when all of those intermingle, kind of, if they don't deal with that, it can be pretty detrimental for the future of the church. And so in our fundraising intensive, it's not just, the nuts and bolts, which, I can talk about in a minute. It's really kind of this, you got to deal with the mindset first.
Got it.
Just to go a little deeper there, like, so a couple comes and they're pretty green on this whole thing. What are some of the fears that you guys deal with and that you try to obviously get them over these hurdles?
Well, honestly, you never know where somebody's at, right, as it relates to finance personally.
Yeah.
But how people manage their finances often personally is how they're going to manage the finances of the church, professionally. And so we got to deal with those kinds of things. There's also the mindset of, you talk about the planters who are like crazy successful at fundraising.
Yep.
A lot of them are relational giants. Like they know how to interact with people.
Right.
It's the ones that are far more timid that they really have to, they kind of got to own who they are and what they're doing before they can ever make an ask.
Very good.
Yeah, it'd be so interesting to watch that intensive. What does that look like? Is it a week-long sort of workshop thing? Is it all online? How do you guys do that with your plans?
Yeah, it's all virtual, and it's morphed over its lifespan. But it's typically in huddles, in cohorts, so you've got some interaction with other new church planters, as well as the experts sitting at the table, really getting you to lean into kind of that developmental process and then strategic nuts and bolts.
Right. And do you teach church plants, or the gentleman you were mentioning, is it fundraising starts well before the church is planted and they try to get to some sort of threshold of dollars raised before it's time to plant the church?
That would be lovely.
That sounds so logical in my mind, having never done it myself. So
yeah, well, I have, and I would probably do it differently the next time. But that's the whole point, and that's why it's one of the first things out of an assessment, or we define calling, is we've got to tee you up for success. And so that fundraising piece has to happen on the front end. There's just so much more space if we're looking at a 12 to 9 month window of time to plant a church. There's so much more space in those first 3 months than there is when we get closer to launch. There's all kinds of stuff going on. We put it first and foremost, try to set them up for success, really try to keep them motivated in that.
Right.
And it's hard. Fundraising is difficult.
Yeah.
So you get their mindset right. We get some coaching, some mentoring going on. So what's the first thing I've got to do as a planter? What are the nuts and bolts next steps I got to take?
Yeah. First and foremost, you need a budget. So, we got to have a roadmap. We got to know where you're going. Planter may be able to dream about the final destination, this is what she's going to look like. But if they haven't really counted the costs, they might run out of gas along the way and, never make it to the end. So you got to make a budget first. And you got to have some pretty good oversight, some wisdom speaking into that. Next, you got to make a list, and like Santa, you got to check it twice, and that can be pretty exhaustive. We try to encourage them to think about like all of the places in life that they've been and all of the contacts. And so not only are you making a list of people, but you have to think through, how are you going to communicate with them,
Right.
and some of them, how do you reconnect with them,
Yeah.
right? And how do you follow up with them? So there's a lot of things just in the tactical things that a planter has to do. They have to enlist tools. Like one of the things I love about Tithely and the Elvanto software is that it offers this feature called pledge tracking, which is just huge for church planters. We really try to encourage them to use that tool because, well, for a couple reasons. One, they can quickly look and see, okay, so-and-so said they were going to contribute. I see that they have, and next to how much they said they're going to commit. That is such valuable information for a church planter because now they have the ability to say thank you.
Right.
And thank you goes a long, long way when you need to be fundraising for 3 to 4 years. The second thing it does is it lets a church planter know, oh, so-and-so said they were going to give, but they haven't.
Right.
I need to follow up. And so using key tools like that, they're just fundamental in the fundraising process. So I love that. We try to encourage our church planters to use those tools. Our bookkeeping team knows how to use those tools and tries to, help church planters just stay aware and be really good fundraisers.
What's the time period typically of Stadia signs off on a couple, and says, and they're great from start of that process to the actual plant? What's the typical time?
It's typically, I would say, 9 to 12 months.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's interesting. And so they're fundraising, it sounds like, almost from the beginning, right? From day one, they're kind of off and starting to work on the fundraising aspect of planting a church.
Correct.
Yeah. What are some of the practical things that you guys teach these folks on how to make a great ask and how to sort of, I don't know, preach the vision, compel their friends and family to support their church that they're planting?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it all comes down to motive and message. What's that driving force behind why did they church plant in the first place? Church planting, like many things, it's difficult and it's uniquely difficult. Like I mentioned before, I know I've done it. My husband and I planted a church 7 years ago. And so if a planter hasn't spent time wrestling with the why church planting versus anything else that they could do for the kingdom, they could mistakenly misdirect a message and then miss the whole point of their ask. So if you want to get somebody to say, yes, I'll follow you in generosity, there are a few things that a church planter has to wrestle with. And it comes, in my opinion, just my opinion, but I think it comes down to 3 things. One is calling. What is God up to and what is he drawing you into that you just can't deny? And if you didn't go do this thing, you'd feel really miserable or even disobedient. So sometimes we call this the billboard calling. It's super clear. What your next step is. This type of motive, it's extremely compelling if a planter can spend the time honing the storyline, and it really showcases God's story and how they'll be a fundamental part of their context and the people of their city. Like, so some people get that billboard calling, and if they'll spend time working on that, people would be silly to not want to be a part. But not everybody gets a billboard calling. Some simply have contextual or personal story. So story would be like, what personally wrecks your heart? What are you passionate about? What needs to be redeemed? So again, a planner has to spend time crafting their storytelling and the calling, and they need to figure out, kind of how does that donor's story merge with their story and with God's story? So there's a lot that goes into fundraising, just thinking about how do you pitch this vision to a church planter. And lastly, they can't forget history. So that kind of their personal track record, your history plays a lot into calling and into story. And it kind of paves a way. And so if people are willing to follow you, like they have been, like your leadership's been pretty stellar, then when you speak about calling or you speak about story, they'll probably lean in and want to be a part and invest in what you're doing. So you kind of got to think about where you've been as you think about where you're going. And I always tell my planters, I'm like, you know what? If you'll think about it this way as you approach a potential donor, just set your mind that says, you know what? They would be a fool if they didn't partner with this mission. That kind of sets them up to go, okay, I have to know why church planting. I have to know why this city. I have to know why these people. And if I can do that, then the Lord does the rest.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I was a church planter in my past life, so I'm hearing everything you're saying and was involved with, some successful and some not. So, you get, it's like anything, and it's a gamut. Maybe switch a little bit to on the whole idea of digital giving now. Okay. And like I'm going back 30 years, showing my age, I would write letters and I would ask people to send checks, right? That's what I did when I traveled as a missionary and then, planning the churches. That age is now done pretty much. How have you found putting the digital tools in the planter's hand? How much easier it is now for them to be able to get people to make a recurring donation every month because it's right in their phone.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy easy now. Stadia bookkeeping, one of the things that we are experts in is startups. Yep. So, a church planter comes to us, we're like, okay, we'll open your bank account for you. We'll set up your online giving for you. We'll get your church management software up and running. We're going to help you with fundraising intensive and even training. So, I mean, they're pretty much being handed all of the tools. I mean, when I set up or one of my colleagues sets up their Tithely account, it's like instantaneous. I don't know how y'all do that. Like I tell them, like if you're going to go with a
secret sauce,
if you're going to go with a different vendor, you're going to wait, a couple days for bank verification and all that sort of stuff. I'm like, but it's like magic. It just happens. And it's really fun to be able to reach back out to the church planter. I mean, like I walk out of the bank, I come home, I give them their information. We set up their online giving and go, here's your code. Here's your code. Let's go. Like plug it in a newsletter, put it on your website. Yep. And, it's pretty awesome. So there's really no excuse, I suppose, in this day and age for, the inability to fundraise. The tools are awesome.
Yeah. And in the moment too, right? If you're having a vision night or a dinner and you've invited people over, it's like, having the ability to, hey, because you want people to give when they're inspired.
Absolutely.
Hearing your what you're talking about, crafting your story, the vision of the church. It's like, and you've spent, kind of all this time, and it's like, let's do it right now, right? Take your phone.
Text to this, absolutely.
Right. It's so much more powerful than
don't lose the moment.
Yeah.
And Michelle, how important is just tech in general, right? Like I think digital giving, the ability to give anytime, anywhere, like really quick in these moments is super important. But you guys also work on the church management side of things, and you get that set up for church plants, and obviously the bookkeeping side, probably with QuickBooks. Like, how important? I'm a church plant, and I'm getting this thing going. I have, I don't know, 10 people in a garage or something like that. But having technology there to start the whole thing, like, how have you seen that, make church planting different?
Yeah, I mean, it just gets easier and better all the time.
Mm-hmm.
The tools are sharper. They are talking to each other. So, integrations with church management software and online giving solutions and even QuickBooks and all those sorts of things, they just streamline. They make it fairly effortless for a church planter to not only, receive donations, but to be able to see where am I along the journey. Like it doesn't take any time to tell a church planter how they're doing, which is awesome because it just helps with accountability, not just with them, but with the people that are helping them plant the church, whether that's their, management team or their board of directors. I mean, all of those tools, they help all the way up, everybody's got to know how to play the game and what's going on.
Yeah. And you mentioned like the vitals, right? You're having a child and you're going back every month and you're checking the vitals. So do you guys teach church planners to to sort of leverage a certain set of vitals using the technology, and that's how they're reporting out to their plant team or their board of directors and things like that?
Yeah. So on our end, they're setting goals. They set 9-month goals in finance, launch team size, and a few other, important launch team, a few other important vitals.
Yeah.
But in the finance arena, we leverage, QuickBooks is huge for our church planters as far as getting that data. Their church management software, tracking. Any more church management software, if you're wise and you use apps and those sorts of things. Checking in people even in the pre-launch season is super, super helpful, because now we have the metrics. We know how many people are there. We know, we can know the percentage of givers. We can, just a lot of data that comes out. It's super helpful. And in fact, that information is like crazy helpful at the time of launch, because we can look back as an organization and go, okay, we can do some analysis and see, what are those things that are like super important to launch a healthy church? What have we learned? And so, technology is huge in not just one church plant, but in church planting movement as a whole. There's just so much data now that's just going to make church planting better and better.
Phenomenal.
Yeah. Really cool.
Yeah. As we wrap a little bit, what are some of Stadia's, what are you guys seeing in this whole realm of church planting? What's the future of church planting as far as what you guys can tell what's going? You hear a lot of negativity, like the church is dying, there's, everyone's leaving church. I don't think that's true, but I'm interested to get your take on that, kind of really being on the front lines of planting and growing the kingdom.
Yeah. It's an exciting time, I think, in church planting. Church planting is not a new thing, right? It's been around for many, many years.
Couple thousand.
Yeah, but it's not. I don't think it's not losing momentum presently. I think if anything, we're just starting to see more kingdom collaboration on our end. So prior to 2018, Stadia would find church planters, and people would send us church planters. We would work with them, give them all of our services. And they kind of become a part of the family. But towards the end of 2018, like the leadership at Stadia just really said, look, like we need to be planting at, somewhere in the 8,000 number, of church plants a year in the United States to keep up with population and church closure. Wow. So we're maybe somewhere around the 4,000s.
Right. And
so Stadia leadership said, you know what? We just got to get the job done. And so we kind of threw out our old model of how we did things. And we said, you know what? We're just giving everything away to qualified people who want to plant churches that can get this done. And so if we can we can help plant more and better churches that are going to be around for years to come, that are going to multiply and reproduce, then that's what we want to do. And so it's been really cool to watch all of the partnerships that have come in. It's kind of like we're seeing this trend of people just going, look, it doesn't have to just be our way, and it doesn't have to be your way, but we recognize like this is your strength, and we recognize this is our strength. What would it look like if we came together? And we just really took care of church planters. So we ultimately were taking care of God's kids.
Yeah. It's so like the software, like, I've shifted from ministry to this startup software culture, and just the way technology and giving things away, even if some kind of freemium type model, it's like get as many customers as you can, as quick as you can. And I love that you're bringing that kind of mindset to church planting. I like that. And, some people shouldn't plant churches. We all know that.
Right.
And you try and guide them the best. But the ones that have that calling, the billboard moment, just the sense of, maybe they've been successful in something else in life, or this has been their passion since they were born again, however many years ago, taking out the barriers and the impediments to getting those guys and the gals out there planting churches. I think that's just phenomenal.
Absolutely.
walking them through sort of A to Z, everything it takes to get started, and helping them along the way, and giving it all to them for free. That's incredible. Like, where should people go?
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm pretty sure it's stadia.com, but if that's wrong, where should people go to learn more about you guys?
Frank, that's wrong. It's
Oh.
stadiachurchplanting.org.
Fail. Sorry.
StadiaChurchPlanting.org.
There we go.
Yeah, Stadia.com is probably Google's new thing, their gaming platform. So.
Right. That's great, though. We'll definitely put links in the notes, and hopefully we've got some people listening that had that heart to plant a church, looking for a relationship with a organization like Stadia, and can get connected with you guys.
That would be incredible.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Michelle. Very informative. I know a lot of people are going to love this episode, and really appreciate your time, effort, energy, and insight into this area.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thanks. Man, what a great insight. Church planting is a big deal for us, because I think it's, you've been doing it, I've been doing it, we've been involved in church plants our whole Christian lives. And even as a company, the way we do things here is you can get started in 5 minutes for free.
Right.
It's very much we're geared towards that part of the church market.
It's like church planting and startup business.
It's all the same.
They're totally different, but also so the same, right? And I think what they're doing, where they're just saying, look, we've learned a lot. We can help, sort of qualify and kickstart people into planting a successful church, is really cool. It's like startup, like the Y Combinator, where they do these startup intensives, right? It's the same concept,
same thing,
but applied to churches. And it's great that Stadia is giving away their stuff for free, bringing their expertise. So super cool, and super cool to hear how they're using technology
to make it all easier.
Yeah, to make it easier and to make it more data driven. Like, they're learning things, and then they can apply those learnings to other churches that come after that next wave, right? So I think that's pretty cool.
Good times. Awesome, man. Well, thanks everyone for joining. We will catch you next time, and until then, we'll see you soon. Thanks.
Very good. Thanks, Tithely fam. See you guys.